startlingly immense slums about to confront one of this country's thousands of quacks, fake doctors, among the culprits behind the reemergence of a deadly disease the world thought it had wiped out.
So this is the doctor?
Yeah.
The man we're looking for likely had a part in causing this impossibly cute and very sassy girl named Gulshan,
How old are you?
to suffer needlessly.
10?
10. 1, 2.
12.
This all started when Gulshan, a poor child here in New Delhi, whose parents scraped by doing menial labor at the small school where she studies, developed a fever she couldn't kick.
Do you remember when you first got sick?
He says, when I was sick, I would only sleep. I would not even have the strength to talk.
Her mom and dad took Gulshan to this medical office where this man, who calls himself a doctor, ordered lots of expensive and probably unnecessary tests, including an ultrasound. Over the course of several weeks, Gulshan's parents say they spent their entire savings, and meanwhile, Gulshan's health continued to deteriorate.
This doctor took all of your money and didn't help your child, didn't diagnose her with a disease that she actually had.
She says when their money ran out, the so-called doctor simply sent them away to a free government hospital where Gulshan finally got the correct diagnosis: tuberculosis, a lethal and highly contagious disease spread with just a cough.
She feels terrible that, she says all the money was gone and she feels terrible about it.
So we went to confront the so-called doctor,
Namaste.
who, as it turns out, does not have a medical degree, although he claims to have a degree in traditional Indian medicine.
Do you deny that a young girl came to you who was very sick and very poor, and you took her family's money until they ran out of money, allowing her to get even sicker in the process and affect other people in the process, and then when you were done taking their money, you just sent her off to a government hospital?
He says that he goes to the extent of helping poor patients to a point where he sometimes pays for their tests out of his own pocket.
So you think this guy's probably a bit of a fraud?
To be honest, why a bit of a fraud?
A real fraud.
Unfortunately, yes.
Our translator here is actually an activist. His name is Sandeep Ahuja, and he runs something called Operation Asha, which means Operation Hope in English, which is taking on India's massive scourge of quacks who set up shops in unsanitary back alley offices, sometimes just feet away from one another.
This is where you treat your patients? The patient comes and lies down here?
As you're about to see, India's epidemic of quackery is actually fueling a much larger epidemic of tuberculosis, which is filling this country's sick wards and threatened to kill young Gulshan.
Check this out. There are some mind-boggling statistics when it comes to TB here in India. There are about 2 million new cases every year. About 500,000 people die of the disease every year. That's 2 people every 3 minutes. The disease also carries with it a nasty stigma. About 100,000 women every year are kicked out of their home for having TB. And about 300,000 kids are kicked out of their school because they have TB or because they're simply too sick to attend class.
So how are the quacks making the TB epidemic worse? Because even when they diagnose the disease correctly, they often just hand the patients drugs without appropriate supervision. Drugs that are readily and cheaply available right on the street here.
So I don't need a prescription. I don't need anything from a doctor.
I can give you without prescription.
Without prescription? Okay. That's pretty incredible. Because in the United States, if you wanted to buy this, you would need a prescription. The fact that you can get this for 30 cents, this is fueling all of these unlicensed physicians out there, right? Because,
Of course.
hello, namaste.
Some of the storefront quacks we met don't even seem to realize the incredible dangers of not supervising the drugs that TB patients take. The sign says Dr. Khan, but Sandeep says this man has no medical degree. Khan says he sends patients he suspects of having TB to the hospital, but Sandeep is skeptical.
Do you think this guy understands that he's making people sicker and he doesn't care, he's just doing it for the money?
I think he's just doing it for money.
Are you aware that if you give somebody who has TB some drugs and they don't finish the course of the drugs, that they could become resistant to further drugs and get even more sick and make other people even more sick. Do you understand that that's a possibility?
He says he didn't know about it yet, but now he's learned this.
But now here's the twist. Sandeep and Operation Asha have come up with a rather elegant solution to all this. They're taking the very people who used to make patients sicker and training them and incentivizing them to actually cure patients like Gulshan. And all of this is remarkably cheap. If you give Asha just $25, that will pay for one patient's entire course of treatment.
It's incredibly cheap. You're saying $25 and I can save somebody's life.
Yes, precisely. Incredible, but true.
And every time a patient like Gulshan is cured, it's a big step toward choking off an incredibly dangerous epidemic.
Dan.
Gulshan, by the way, is just weeks away from being totally cured. She's looking forward to continuing school and living a long and healthy life.
Can I have a high five? You know how to do that? All right.
For Nightline, this is Dan Harris in New Delhi.